Welcome back to Cricket Aviation. My name is Jim Payne, and in this video I want to thank my 1,000 subscribers. Every single one of you, I really appreciate you subscribing to the channel. What we're going to do in this video is I want to go over some of the projects that I've been working on outside of just building my CriCri. Some of that is what you see in front of you here. So please stick around, and thank you again for the 1,000 subscribers. So I wanted to start off this video by bringing everybody up to speed on where I'm at with kits and parts, and also some of the special projects that I've been working on over the last several months. I was contacted by a person about 6 months ago. His name is Maurizio Parisianotto, and he is an aerobatic pilot from the Cloud Dancers airshow team. Now, Maurizio, aka Maz, actually was a BD-5 pilot, BD-5 jet pilot. He owned and flew a BD-5 jet in air shows, and he contacted me and said, I've sold my BD-5 jet and I want to build a CriCri. Now I kind of scratched my head a little bit and was thinking, a BD-5 jet pilot wants to build a CriCri. I am absolutely thrilled that somebody of that caliber wants to build what is considered a more entry-level flying aircraft. But obviously the CriCri can be fun, it's aerobatic, it's unique. So I went ahead and met up with Maz. He's a wonderful guy, pure aviation guy, loves everything about aviation, lives in an airplane hangar, and so he's everything about aviation, and so I'm absolutely thrilled that he is on board with building a CriCri. Now, because Maz is an airshow pilot, of course he wants to build a CriCri to potentially fly in air shows, and he was under a short time schedule of how quickly he wanted to be able to get his project finished so that he could use it in air shows. And of course he contacted me and said, hey, you know, I'd really like to buy parts from you, I'd really like to get some parts and get this thing going, and I'd really like to not have to just build from plans from scratch. So Maz and I got to talking, and what we decided to do is Maz was going to be my kit test subject. So Maz is buying some kits from me and is actually building a CriCri as we speak. Maz has already finished his wing spar kit. He has also finished the complete tail kit, so the rudder, the horizontal stabilizer, and the vertical fin are all done. In the last month I have delivered the complete, or at least mostly complete of what I have here, fuselage kit. So Maz is working on the fuselage kit. He basically has the rear fuselage complete. He is now well into working on the forward fuselage and frame 4 spar box, so he's going to actually catch up to me quite quickly. But again, I'm trying to work with Maz because I know he's going to be an asset to the CriCri community, and also an asset to me. I mean, if he's building the first kit, that's marketing for me that, you know, is almost priceless. So again, I'm loving right now working with Maz because he's a great guy and he's a good builder. I'm going to leave a link in this video to his Facebook page where he is following along and documenting his build. So you can go to his Facebook page and see where he's at and watch his progress also. So again, this has been an opportunity for me that I couldn't pass up, but it has been delaying my project a little bit, trying to work on parts to provide for Maz to get moving on his project. And it's also very difficult for me to be producing, you know, one kit at a time when you start looking at getting into building kits, and that's why I've been delaying the process of actually getting some of the parts out that I could be building now. Is it's not only delaying the progress of my project, but it's much easier for me to build 10 of something or 3 or more of something than try and build 1 of something. So again, we're going to keep moving Maz forward as quickly as possible. You know, Maz is hoping to have his project done sometime in 2022. He and I are both planning on trying to get to Oshkosh next year with both of our airplanes, so we've both got a lot of work to do. So I was also contacted by another interested CriCri builder named John Miller over the last several months, And John happens to work for a machine shop, and he contacted me and said, hey, you know, I could make some of those more difficult fittings that you have. I've got 9-axis CNC machine in the shop here, and we could make all kinds of parts for you. So I contacted John back and I said, oh, that'd be great. You know, there's some difficult fittings that are hard to make by hand here. I only have a hand mill and a hand lathe, but a lot of the fittings I was planning on outsourcing those anyway for the kits. And so John had actually made some parts for me. He sent me some parts. They were beautiful. You know, some of the horizontal fittings, the rudder fittings, and some of the flight control parts inside the airplane. All beautiful stuff, machined perfectly, amazing parts. And so those are the parts that I plan on selling in the initial kits, and I'm hoping to have John continue to make those through the machine shop that he works at. But at the same time, John wanted to also start building an airplane. He's been a CriCri enthusiast for a long time. Was planning on making fittings and stuff for himself. So in conjunction with providing me parts, I am also providing John kit parts to start working on his aircraft. But in addition to that, I got to talking to John and I said, you know, what I'd really like to do is figure out how to solve the wheel and tire issue that I have with a CriCri. The wheel and tire issue, if you've watched my other video, is that we don't really have a proper wheel and brake setup for the CriCri in the 2.80 by 2.50 by 4 tire size, which is really the ideal tire size for the CriCri. I was going to use the smaller 200 by 50 tire with the Matco wheel and try and work out that combination. It wasn't ideal because it is a very small tire. So I got to talking to John and I said, oh, would you be willing to work on actually designing a proper wheel that fits the proper tire size that we're looking for, and then also figure out if we can integrate a brake rotor mount into that two-piece wheel assembly. And I said, if we could do that, that would be amazing. It would solve a lot of problems that we were going to have in the future with kits and CriCris and not having to try and use go-kart wheels and some other things that really aren't made for aircraft. But not only that, all of the go-kart wheels and scooter wheels and things that I found that are in the 4-inch size don't really fit the 2.80 by 2.50 by 4 tire. They're designed to fit the larger 10-inch tire size, which is a 3 by 4, which is 3 inches wide on a 4-inch rim. And that I've seen those on other CriCris and they look really big. Like I said before, they look like a Tundra tire on a CriCri. So John said, yeah, I'll work on something. What do you want me to make? So what I did is I sent him the Matco wheel, which is a very simple wheel. It's made very well. And I said what we'd really like to do is take the Matco wheel, which is a smaller diameter and a smaller width wheel, and we'd like to just kind of blow that up so that it fits the 4-inch tire size that we want. But in addition to that, I designed a mount that I was going to use and actually figure out how to bolt onto the smaller Matco wheel. I was just going to make it so that it would bolt right onto here over the top and allow me to mount a mountain bike brake rotor onto it. So what John did is he basically took that design and figured out how to integrate that into the two-piece rim that I have here, and he went ahead and made a complete wheel assembly that fits the proper tire size, it's the proper width. And what we can do then is we can actually mount any size mountain bike brake rotor to this wheel assembly. So what I wanted to do in this video is actually show you this combination of what we came up with here, because I think it's the perfect solution for the CriCri. So as you can see here, I've got the complete wheel two-piece assembly here that goes together. We've got a 5/8 axle that fits, bearing size, an axle that fits through the center. What we were able to do here is actually mount the bearing to the very outside of the mount for the brake rotor that fits right on top of here like this, and which gives us the best support that we need for the wheel, with a bearing as far out as we can on the outside of the wheel, and on the inside of the wheel it's all the way on the inside of the mount, as I said, which gives us the largest spacing to support this wheel so that we don't have any flexing or bending that has occurred if people have used the plastic wheels, that are available, the composite wheels. They tend to flex a lot, and some of those guys have actually had to add a third bearing onto an assembly like this that mounts a disc brake rotor, similar to what we're doing here. But we've really solved all of the issues then with wheels for the CriCri. So So the other thing that we did too is when we made the mount here for the bike brake rotor, and just so you're aware of how this works, of what we've done, the standard rear size rotor for a mountain bike brake is 140 millimeters. That's what this brake rotor is right here, 140 millimeters. And we use the industry standard mount pattern for these bike brake rotors, and that's what we mounted or created a mount for on these wheels. Now, these wheels normally would have a 5 millimeter metric bolt. What we did is we changed the thread pattern on these to be a 1024 size. What that allows us to do is to use an aircraft bolt that will mount in here, and it has a drilled head on it so that we can use safety wire on these bolts. As you know, as an aircraft mechanic, I'm big on making sure that you use all the safety precautions you can with hardware and when assembling an experimental aircraft. These bolts are going into this aluminum structure. There's no way to get a lock nut on the back, so you're supposed to safety wire the heads on these so that they don't, vibrate and back themselves out. And on something like a wheel assembly here, that's almost a must. So we've done that to this. We've made it so that that mounts on here. Now, you can obviously get these brake rotors in different sizes. This is 140 millimeter, which is the smallest one that will fit onto this setup that we have here. You could go up to 160 millimeter rotor if you wanted to. Obviously, your clearance between the rotor and the ground starts to decrease, and if you end up with a flat tire, that's always been a concern of mine is, what happens on landing if you have a flat tire. You don't want this rotor to hit the ground and all of a sudden get bent and then lock up your wheel even worse than it probably already is. Also, if you had a flat tire, outside of your hangar and it was sitting on the ground, I really didn't want my rotor to be hitting concrete and resting on the ground if that happened. But what we've done here with the mounting of this, because we've actually created a special mount that allows us to mount a brake caliper that fits these brake rotors that uses a mountain bike brake caliper. So what this does is this actually sets up your axle here to have the exact same offset that is necessary on a mountain bike brake to mount your caliper with a 140 millimeter rotor. And then if you know how bikes work, they have adapters that you can get for bikes that allow you to use bigger rotors and then mount your caliper offset to the correct amount based on the rotor size. So with a 140 millimeter rotor, you use a zero offset mount, which mounts on here, and you mount your caliper on here. But if you use a 160 millimeter rotor, which is bigger, you now need the plus 20 millimeter offset bike brake caliper mount, which will offset the caliper that 20 millimeters and allow you to again mount your caliper in the right position. And we've designed a mount for the calipers according to that specification. 140 millimeter rotor with a zero offset, 160 millimeter rotor with a plus 20 offset, 180 millimeter rotor with a plus 40 offset. So that is exactly how we've done that. Now, the other thing we obviously had to do is we had to design an axle. So what we've done with this is I'm using the Grove gear leg, which is 5/8 thick. It's the same thickness that you should be making a fiberglass gear. So what we've tried to do with this entire setup is make it completely interchangeable. As long as your gear leg at the base is 5/8 of an inch thick, whether it's fiberglass or aluminum, you should be able to use our axle assembly and wheel assembly with that combination. And what we've done is we've created a step down here, and actually our axle at the base here is 3/4 of an inch thick to allow us to get that step down to the 5/8 so that when we slide this into the wheel that we have a proper stop at the proper distance. And if I do that with the correct end here, it gives us the proper offset from the back side of the landing gear leg to where the rotor should be based on where this bracket is going to mount, which is actually on the front side of the gear leg. So we've done this kind of similar to how the CriCri original plans was designed, where the axle is designed to fit in from the back like this, in from the back, and then on the opposite side is where our adapter plate mounts, and it gets bolted with the gear leg right in the middle. So you bolt this together, which again, it adds a lot of strength when you do it that way. But anyway, the guys at Northern Machining which did all this, which is the company that John works for. They did an amazing job. I'm absolutely thrilled with how this stuff turned out. It's beautiful. I mean, the machining on this, and this isn't a knock on Matco, honestly. Matco's wheel is just fine, but the machining on this Matco wheel is a bit rough. The machining on this is gorgeous. You could make jewelry out of this stuff. The threaded holes are absolutely perfect. I've never seen threads this nice on an aluminum assembly. I mean, these bolts just fit in here absolutely perfect with no play. So again, I'm really thrilled at how this all turned out. And again, thank you guys at Northern Machining. You guys did a great job. I thought I'd move the camera in here a little closer so we can see what's going on here. So we've got the axle here inserted through the back side of a 3/4 inch hole in the Grove gear here. And I've got the bolts here, and the bolt pattern that we're using is 1 inch hole to hole, up and down. We're just using a square bolt pattern. And then you can see on the opposite side there of the gear leg, we've got the actual mount for the caliper bolted on that side. And of course, you can flip this around either direction depending on which direction the caliper needs to be mounted. And the caliper needs to be mounted the same direction on each wheel. So even though we have one mounted behind the wheel here, on the other end it's going to be mounted in the front because these calipers can't be flipped around. But we're using the HopeTech caliper here. I believe it's the X3, I'm sorry, and it seems to fit perfectly. We've left enough clearance here where I think we should be able to accommodate just about any brake caliper that anybody wants to use. But this system actually looks like it's going to work perfect. As you can see, and on the front side here, we're just using a cotter key with a castle nut. There is enough room, so the plan is here, when we're going to do a wheel pant, to be able to attach it behind this nut, we should be able to put a washer and then also a tab of metal that's bent out here that's going to have two nut plates on it so that we can screw in our wheel pant on the outside here. One of the benefits of doing it that way is that if we threaded the end of this, which we might do in the future, is possibly extend that and thread it, but the nice thing here is it doesn't stick out much at all past the tire. So if anybody didn't want to use wheel pants, this is a good combination. But by putting a plate behind here with tabs that stick out with the nut plates on the back, the nut plates then will be locking, so we can go ahead and put screws in without having to figure out how to safety wire something into the end here. And so for now, we're just sticking with this. We may do some modifications of this over time, but for a first run, this is absolutely perfect. And let me see if I can flip this over so you can actually see it right side up. Yeah, so here's right side up, and you can see where the attachment here is for the hydraulic line, because these are obviously hydraulic brakes. That line can come right up and either around the outside here. I don't think I'd try and make the corner here, possibly on the inside, but maybe. I'm going to play with that one when I get a chance. It does swivel a little bit, but we should be able to get that to come up along the gear leg here somewhere, either on the front side or the back side. But yeah, this looks like it's going to be a great solution for the CriCri. I'm absolutely thrilled with how this is coming out. And now we have the proper tire size that we should be using with the CriCri. Okay, let's talk about a couple other things. So, website. So I've mentioned before, we're working on a website, and yes, we are still working on a website. Again, one of the things I'm concerned about is having a website up and not having enough parts on there to sell. It's been one of the reasons why I've been delaying the website, is because until I really have enough parts to put out there, it just doesn't make sense to have a website. Now, with a lot of the stuff that John's been doing for me, I do have a lot of fittings. I've also got 20 of these wheels coming that I plan on putting on the website, and axles, this whole combination. We're going to try and sell that as one unit. So that's actually going to be one of the first things that I end up putting on the website, is going to be a wheel and tire and brake setup, and also possibly a nose wheel tire combination. A lot of the landing gear stuff I'll put on there. I know you guys that are out there building directly from plans, you're not going to need some of the parts that I'm going to be providing in the kit, such as the tail and the fuselage and things like that. But I'm still hoping that things like canopies, wheels, tires, and brake combinations and things like that, you would still buy from us. And because those parts are something that I'm having somebody else do the work on, I'm probably going to end up having some of those parts on the website first. I'm really not going to have any of the actual kits for things like the rudder and tail assembly, fuselage, things like that until my aircraft is done. So if you're following along with my build, don't really expect that stuff to show up on the website until I get my airplane back here on its wheels and hopefully flying. Once I have mine to the point where it's flying, then I can start dedicating time on my CNC machine and actually producing those parts, which I'm going to have to just do batch runs of a lot of those things. There'll be some of the tail parts first, fuselage will come next. So just be aware I am working on it. I apologize if it's taking longer than some of you want. I understand that some of you really want to get building also. So as soon as I can get some of these parts onto the website, I will, and I will post that in one of my videos coming up soon, hopefully. So the other thing is canopies. I have contacted a company that makes canopies. I'm trying to work with them to try and get a CriCri canopy mold and an initial canopy created so that I can do some testing with it. I don't know how long that process is going to take. I was in contact with a company prior to Oshkosh, but getting a hold of them during the Oshkosh time frame has put a little bit of a delay on it. But as soon as I know more on canopies, I will let you know. I'm going to be in need of one quite shortly. I have cut out a lot of the parts for the framing of the canopy. I have sent this company CAD drawings of the canopy and what we're trying to do. So hopefully they can get a mold made and we can get a canopy at least made for my aircraft so that we can know where we're going forward. And as soon as I can get canopies available to me, I will have them on a website for sale. So just letting you guys know where we're at with that. Again, trying to do things as quickly as I can, but I'm just a one-man show here, and so I got to do things as I have time. So again, I want to thank everybody who's been watching the videos, everybody who's subscribed to the channel. The fact that we've exceeded 1,000 subscribers is amazing. So again, please like the videos and continue to watch the videos and tell all your friends to subscribe to the channel. We'll see how high we can get that number in the future. I'm hoping it's going to increase as I get my aircraft near completion and we actually get to some flying videos, which I'm hoping to do sometime in the beginning of next year. We'll see how long it takes. I'm actually hoping to have my aircraft at Sun and Fun and have it completed by then. That's really my goal, is to have it ready for Sun and Fun. I don't know if I'm going to make it or not, but we'll see.